just start with a little bit of loosening the body. And with this one, just really start with very small movements. And just really focusing on the shoulders, hips, especially just loosening and falling into the knees. And really the connection with the ground. So just start with the feet really press deeply into the ground and start to increase the movement a little bit bigger, creating more length. And also start to come into the toes, a little bit more of a bouncing movement, but let's keep the connection with the toes in the ground. And just feel the weight rising and falling in the body into the ground. I'm going to show you one thing because I'm doing it. So this is one way you can stop doing it and slightly crunching. So as I do this, I'm kind of crunching the body forward. And this is again, I'm too much time on sitting on a computer. But what you can do in this case is use the hands to basically touch your own stomach here, and you basically use the hands as a kind of spacer for the body. So because I've got a lot of receptors and sensoreceptors in the hand, if I bring kind of the hands onto this area, I can also really feel what's happening there. And if I start to crunch forward, one thing I'll really feel the body do it. And the second thing is if I use, there's a kind of teacher that I know does this a lot, but you use the little finger. It's a bit like being a surfer. Use the little finger goes to the hip bone, and the thumbs go into the bones of the ribs. So if I kind of collapse that area, you basically feel this space shortens. And what I want to do is really all the time create kind of length through the body this way. So with that in mind, just use this as a kind of spacer, and all the time think about creating more length, more extension. All the time working away from collapsing, contracting. So it's kind of just a kind of feedback on the system. And the hands are really good for us to do this. You can also use the hands in the back. So sometimes the back feels kind of dead. We tend to not have a good kind of sense of feeling in the back of the body. It doesn't tend to be so important for us. But for me today, it's here. I'm going to create really a sense of length. Yeah. And also using the breath, really to fill the ribcage, open out, and inflate everything front and back. That's that. And we'll go now to this one, side to side. And this is really key now. If I keep the hands here, I can feel this crunch, and I can feel this crunch. But what I want is to have the feeling of the lengthening all the time. Both sides of the body. Especially now the side that's bending. I want to feel a kind of sense of length in that area. I think we can use the hands here. And that's it. Or you can just let the hands drop. Involve them in the movement. And start to work the body a little bit more forwards. And again, if you feel it kind of going back to crunching, which I'm doing now, go back into this kind of feeling of having the hands on the body. And all the time again, creating the length through the upper body. So even though if I'm kind of bending through, I don't want to kind of contract forwards. So think about lengthening again, especially when the movement becomes a bit more complicated. We tend to go back into kind of these kind of patterns, contracting, closing down. All the time try and think about lengthening, opening the body out. So going a little bit more now into rotations, front and back. Also remembering the breath, try and keep them nice and deep, and again creating space and expansion in the ribcage. Good. And now go into a full rotation. And again, you can use the hands here. In this case, this is a kind of rotational movement. You can also, as we do a little bit with this movement, come into here, you can use one hand on the front and one hand on the lower back. And just feel, or even both on the lower back. Just kind of feel that area, what's happening in that area. It tends to be a kind of dead zone. Unless we have pain in the lower back, tends to go kind of a bit unnoticed. So it's just about bringing up more awareness into that area, especially in these rotation movements. That's it. If you bring the hands back out, just try and feel the weight of the hands. Good, and then just go to this kind of spinal wave movement. Nice and big. And again, you can use the hands, or you can use the hands just on the front of the body. And again, now really focusing, even when I close down the body, sense of length through the body. So I don't want to kind of go into full contraction. A sense of, this. And again, just use the hands. You feel there's a kind of dead area. In this case, a little bit in the spine. Just. And in this case, really trying to pass away through the whole body. Good. And a little bit like we've done sometimes with sweep, you can also open the legs out a little bit wider, and this gives you a bit more range, especially in the pelvis. So just now, almost kind of coming down into a squat, a bit like a kind of sumo squat from this position, and then open it out. And especially key now in this movement is really dropping the weight into the middle of the base. So if you imagine the space between the 2 feet, I want to just sink all the weight right between it, right into the base. Also in this case, as you come up, also think of the back of the knees opening out and closing down. Good. That's it. Good. Okay, we'll stay in this position. Just release a little bit the knees. Let the hips drop down, and just start to work the arms side to side. So you're in a kind of a half squat. Just so the arms are feel the arms very loose. And whilst focusing on the arms, just think about the spine, right from the tailbone all the way up to the top of the head. Think of really a sense of lengthening through that area. So I don't want to make it tight and rigid, but I want a sense of full extension through every vertebra. And I'm slightly using, in this case, the kind of effect of gravity on the tailbone, pulling down to the ground. And I think of just lengthening, slightly drawing the head up through the space. And at the same time, really opening the shoulder joint up. Good, and then just come down, 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 down. And then what you're going to do is just shifting the hips, tilting them. And again, just letting the arms release. Especially now being aware of the lower back. Trying to release. So just, if you can, let all the weight of the body sink into almost into the heel area of the foot. I feel nice and stable. Let the head also drop towards the feet. So allow more and more of the upper body to relax and release. whilst keeping the lower body really grounded. Swinging here. And then just start to increase the movement, and try and do it with the pelvis. So increase the movement of the pelvis. Try not to swing up with the arms. Just try and motivate it from the hips. Start to rise up a little bit more. So the hands are just now in front. And then start to bring the hands up. Keep the full range of motion, so you're going all the way down, all the way up, and then just come to a full sense of lengthening. Really keep length through the whole spine now. As you come up, use the upward swing to create length, and the downward swing, try and maintain it. Keep the breath going nice and deep. Okay, good. Just shorten the legs a little bit. Just working the shoulders now side to side. And I tend to always have to kind of work into this exercise. This feels like I'm doing it with the arms. And what I want to do is start to engage the hips. It's like as the hands come down to the side, the hips engage with the hand, and then they go up. A bit like a cowboy. Oh, you do this with the go. So it's like as they come here, the hip kind of catches the hand. So just try and get more and more into this connection between the hips and the hands. It's less about the hands doing it and more about the shoulder just creating an opening to allow the hip to work through the hand. That's good. Okay, and then in this case, just start increasing it again. So bring in the movement a little bit more. What I'm going to do now by doing that movement again from the hips, I want you to slightly rotate the body a bit more. So this will create a little bit more swing in the arms. So again, it's not a case of swinging the arms more. Obviously, this is also possible, but try and get the sense that you're just going to increase the rotation in the hips, and the arms start to come up a little bit higher. And just let them drop. And they go up and then drop. And if you like with this one, a good exercise is just do it one-sided. Place the opposite hand on the shoulder and really feel what's happening in the shoulder. So again, it's using the hand as a kind of, really as a feeling thing, a touching thing, just to feel the shoulder. Now, if I go into tension and I go into swinging, I'll immediately feel the shoulder crunch and go into tension. Just try and feel like it releases all the way through the movement, especially when it's up high. You'll feel that there's a difference between the shoulder coming into its natural range of motion and tension. But sometimes they feel the same. So there's just a limit to the joint, how much it can go. Good. And then just try rolling the whole shoulder. Again, now it's tempting also because the hand's there to start the movement in the shoulder, but just again allow the hip to swing it. So just kind of work in and out of full circles. Just feel what's happening in the shoulder. You can do front and back. Good. And then just start to slow the movement down on this side, and then we'll switch to the other side. Good. So again, just switch to this side. And try and feel if there's a difference between the shoulder. I've got one injury on one shoulder, so one shoulder feels totally different to the other. And one shoulder will go into tension more easily than the other. So just notice if there's a difference. And again, start to work the movement up. And once you feel like it, just come into kind of full circles all the way over. Try and carry the arm over. Just use the feedback on the shoulder. See what's happening. What? Feel what's happening. Don't see what's happening. Feel what's happening. Good. And then just come back into both sides. And try now come into a full movement. Arms up, stretching, opening out both sides. And in this case, just do a few rotations one way, and then as you reach the top, just change the rotation. And just do a couple on each side. And again, if you feel like the shoulders are coming into tension, just shorten the movement down again, and just feel that you can free the hip, open the body up, and then increase the movement again. Until you can start to work with really full, big expanded circles. That's it, good. And again, just start to shorten the movement down, lessening the movement in the hips. Feel the weight sinking down, the arms start to release towards the ground. And just come to a kind of stop, and just let the arms go. Good. We'll just work a little bit with the hips here, just work in circles. And again, it's kind of funny, it's almost automatically the hands on the hips, but also I use the contact on the hips to really feel the hip joint. Feel what's really happening in the hips. It's a little bit easier when you don't have a gi, a big hakama. You need to feel what's going on in the hips. That's it. That's good. And we'll discuss the knees. And again, using the hands. One thing that the hands are used here is a bit of support for the knee, because it's a kind of bit of a fragile joint. But again, using the hands to really feel what's going on in the joint. In this case, play a little bit with, in this case, as you come back into the movement, slightly bringing the back of the knees straight, and then coming into a rotation. So each time, in the UK, this exercise is actually banned as part of one of the boards, the boards that I belong to. This kind of exercise was banned because it's kind of working the knee in a kind of dangerous way. But if you do this correctly, just going to use the freedom in the joint. The main thing is keep the ankles quite loose. And just be aware of not working against the joint. And then use both directions. Just straighten a little bit as you come back. Just bringing possibly awareness to the back of the knee. Also tends to be a big dead area in the body, back of the knee. We don't tend to use it so much, kind of consciously. So. Just open the legs out a little bit and just roll the knees. And again, the key is keep the ankles, everything quite loose. So the hip is actually doing, the hip joint's doing the rotation. A bit like Elvis does his movement like this. The hip joint's doing the rotation. And the knee's really just flexing. But keep it nice and loose. You shouldn't feel any kind of pain at all. There should be no sense of. If you feel pain with this movement, do it less. Do a lot less. And then just open the circle out here. So bringing the knees in and then out. In and then out. And again, try and involve the whole body in the movements. So every part of the body is moving with it. That's good. And then from here, just sitting down to the knees. If you can, bring the palms into the ground. So just try and find a comfortable position for a squat. It might mean coming off the back heels. That's totally fine. If you can, keep the back heel down and really sit the body into the ground. This is the most primitive movement we've got in terms of human culture. Really sitting down into the ground. Multifunctional movement position. before seats were invented. Okay, and then just rock the body forwards a little bit into the hands. Walk the hands forward, just until you can stretch the back of the knee. So this way. So keeping the back heel down again. If you can't, again, just lift the heel off the ground. But if you can, stretch through the back of the knee and into the heel. And just very gently start to rock the body. Which means you're basically pulling the hips into one foot. So imagine the hips are just going to swing towards one foot. And feel one foot empty, one leg empty and one leg filled. And just play with mobilizing the hips and the legs. Okay, just walk the hands back now. And again, if you can, keep the back of the knee straight, drop the hands into the ground. And then what I want you to do is press the palms into the ground. And again, if that means you need to bend the knees to do it, go ahead. So just push the palms into the ground. And just imagine now the head's really going to drop into the ground. So just let it drop and fall. And just feel the weight all through the back. Okay, what I want you to do now is, if you've got the knees bent, just start to straighten the legs. And you'll feel the body naturally starts to pull itself up. The hands peel off the ground. Yeah, just let the hands travel along the feet. Straighten up and start to now initiate really with the pelvis. So I want the pelvis to pull the body up and just let the arms just follow along the legs, up into the knees, into the thigh, drawing the whole body up, just a standing here. Good. Okay, and we'll just finish with some breathing. So nice deep breath in, stretching, lengthening, and then releasing, bending, and just keep the movement really fluid. So there's no stop now in this movement. The breath's continuous, all the way out, and moving back up, curling up through the spine, opening the body. Nice deep breath in and out. Just keep flowing through the breath, in and out, up and down with the body. And you can do this as fast or as slow as you like. Do it at your own pace. Sometimes it's nice to do it real slow, and sometimes it's nice to do it a little bit more dynamically. Let's do two more. In, out. And the last one, nice and deep. And as in this case, as you come to the floor, I want you to really empty the lungs. So just hold it a little bit at the ground. And just until you've got all the breath out of the lungs as much as you can. And when you really feel the need to come up, release it. And take a nice deep breath in. There. Okay, good. I'm just going to shake the whole body. Just release. A little bit with the arms. Again, it's as if you're kind of shaking water off the fingertips. Nice and loose. Feel the weight of the body is just going to kind of impact through the heels into the ground. And feel the kind of reverb that comes up and down the body through the ground. Okay, keeping the feet connected into the ground, and then just slow the movement down. Go smaller and smaller. Just until you kind of stop. Good, that's it. Okay.